Hi, welcome to Coffee with Raymond. I'm Raymond, and this is my coffee. Well, this is my coffee cup because this is the third time today I've done this video, and yeah, I'm all out of coffee. And if I have any more, we're gonna have a bad time because it's already like 5 p.m. and I got to be up for work early in the morning, so it's not going to work out. Anyways, this is my YouTube channel. I am relaunching my YouTube because I want to create a vlog and I want to just talk about the things that interest me. I'm going to try to upload a video about once every week, and we'll talk about various things that I think are interesting or cool. So the question is, who am I? So my name is Raymond. I recently moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to be with my lovely and amazing partner and our two cats, and to try to build a life here. I don't know if I was to give a 5-minute introduction of who I am. How does this even work? Like, what are you supposed to do? It's like, who am I even talking to, right? Like you, obviously, but like, who are you? I don't know. So it's all weird and new, and we're going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. But hang in there. So, fun fact about me: I'm autistic. I came out as autistic when I was in 2016. I was leading a team at a company called Roto in Columbus, Ohio, which builds museums and science centers for kids and adults and anyone who loves science and technology and teaching people fun things. Amazing people at Roto. But I've known that I'm autistic since the year 2000/2001, when I was officially diagnosed by two separate panels of doctors. Um, because back in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was still thought to be incredibly rare. And after my diagnosis, I hid myself from the world for a long time. I hid the fact that I was autistic. And then in 2016, I kind of came out and said, this is who I am, and it is what it is. So we're probably going to talk about that because it's kind of in the news right now, right? Like there's a lot of talk about autism, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And we're going to talk about games, board games, tabletop games, video games, game design. We're going to talk about programming. We're going to talk about software development. What does it mean to lead and manage and run good teams in good technology organizations? That's something I'm an expert in, and I can teach you. And I'm looking forward to teaching you. Yeah, we'll talk history, right? We're going to talk some history, ancient world history. We're going to talk some religion. We'll talk some philosophy. So yeah, that's going to be what this channel is about. I'm going to tell you about myself. I'm going to tell you about my journey. I'm going to tell you about things that I love or that interest me, that I think are exciting, and yeah, we'll go from there. I think in part of getting to know someone, you have to start with their values, understanding their values. Where do they come from? Um, and what drives them as a person, right? Um, so part of, I guess, me vlogging and me sharing myself with the world authentically is maybe starting there. I'm starting here because I want you to understand where the rest of everything that I'm going to talk about comes from. Like, what is the thing in life that drives me and makes me feel engaged and makes me want to do things? I'm doing this as just kind of an experiment and as a fun thing to talk about to start a conversation. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to try to start a cult here, and I'm also not interested in claiming any sort of perfection or profundity or in some way stating that I have some sort of profound wisdom to give you that isn't otherwise discoverable on your own. Everything that I'm talking about are things that I have personally come to believe and come to know through my own journey of self-discovery. But I'm not a spiritual teacher, and I am not trained in that, and I am just a guy in a room in the middle of Pittsburgh who is talking to a camera, right? So I'm telling you who I am and where I come from and what my philosophy is, and it is one view, and I hope it's the right view because I want to follow the right path. But I'm not a saint. I'm just a human being. So please keep that in mind. In order to understand, right, whether or not the person that you are talking with is somebody that you want to listen to, you need to understand who they are, right? You need to try to understand their viewpoint. What drives them? What is their character based on? And for a lot of people, we take shortcuts, right? We say, oh, I'm a Christian. I follow Christ. And so therefore you can trust that I am a good person, or at least try to be, right? And so where my value systems align, because it aligns in this way. People who really study stuff, they'll be able to pull different bits of merit from different traditions, even if it isn't their own. And we also get philosophy, right? Aristotle and Socrates, all these things you learn in your first, month in college, right? On the basics of philosophy. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. I think part of our journey in life is discovering what that philosophy is for ourselves, right? I think we're all interested in the general question of what does it mean to live a good life? And what does it mean to be a good person? What is my philosophy and why does it matter? Why should you listen to me? Well, I'm concerned with the state of the world for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you're concerned too. But one of my concerns is I feel like there are a lot of leaders, male leaders, influencers out there in the world who are giving toxic, wrong advice, right? That aren't based on any philosophy other than strength is good. I think there's a lack of mentors for young men who maybe have a countering view, right? One that I hope to teach and to talk about is a view of being a gentle teacher, having a gentle nature about you, having a kindness about you, right? Having a safety, being both a protector for the people around you, but also being a sanctuary and allowing people to be who they are and accepting people for who they are and loving people for who they are, right? And being okay with things that maybe make you uncomfortable, but otherwise allow other people to find comfort. And these are kinds of things that I want to dig into and I want to talk about on my channel. So let's start here. What is evil? And what is the nature of evil? And what have I come to understand as being evil? Now, if you talk to, I think a lot of people have a dualistic view of evil. Like there's a good side and an evil side. And they're two at cosmic war and battle against one another, right? It is angels against demons. It's good against bad. There's a literal physical, metaphysical fight of entities, right? Fighting each other. And and whatever's on the bad side, right, is the bad entities, and whatever's on the good side are the good entities. And obviously we want to be good, so we root for the good side. And if you root for the bad side, that must mean you're bad, right? And then you have people who are like moral relativists, where they say, well, evil is a function on a spectrum of perception. I don't want to go into those arguments. I think they're somewhat of a distraction, to be honest. And I think the reason is the root of evil is universal, and it doesn't matter what your belief system is, what your philosophy or what your religion is. It all comes back to this one general principle. Evil is the combined suffering of all sentient beings. When more evil enters the world, it is because more suffering has entered the world. And when evil is removed from the world, it is because we are removing that suffering from the world. Anything that would promote the suffering of others or could promote the suffering of others might be deemed as evil or as an evil act. In the same way, we might say an act of virtue, an act of good would be something that removes the suffering or that brings joy or happiness into the world. And you say, well, how can you link that back to, something like a commandment? Well, the number one commandment, right, is thou shalt not kill. Well, if I kill, right? I am introducing suffering through death, and I am also introducing suffering through all the people that love that person who I've harmed. And because of that, I've increased suffering in the world. So the act of killing is evil. This is the philosophical argument. I've come to become, in a lot of ways, a Buddhist. I'm a practicing Buddhist. I'm also would consider myself a practicing Christian. And I think you can be both. The Buddha taught of this concept of karma, which is a little bit different than what you might think of understanding of what karma is. The Western idea of karma is this: if I do bad, bad will come back to me, right? If I do good, good will come back to me. What goes around comes around. That is not the Buddhist idea of karma. The Buddhist idea of karma is more like a field equation. It's more like a pond. And the Buddha actually used a pond, like throwing a rock into a pond and watching the ripples fall away from that rock, right, in the pond, as talking about like the pond being karma and the rock being the action which causes the ripple effects through karma. And so in Buddhism, there's this concept of dependent arising, the idea that everything comes into being through something else. For example, a paved road, right? We might be able to trace back, oh, that road was paved because workers were out there paving it. And also the folks who were in government who funded those folks who were able to pave the road, and the folks who voted for those folks. So we could trace all of these acts back again and again. In the same way, when we throw that rock into that pond and we watch those waves ripple, those waves will intersect with other waves. Part of Buddhism is about trying to manipulate this karma and this pond in such a way that you maximize the good ripples and you try to remove as many of the bad ripples as you can. We get into concepts of like engaged Buddhism, which is like going out into the community and doing good. Exact parallel from the Bible would be the parable of the talents, reinvesting in your community, taking what you have and giving it back and watching it grow. In Buddhism, we have this cosmic idea of karma, and that every act that we put in to the pond causes ripples, which may intersect with other ripples, which causes other acts to form. Right? If I do an act of kindness to somebody else, they're more likely to do an act of kindness, and they're more likely to do an act of kindness, and so on and so forth. If I do an act of evil, right, and I bring suffering into the world, that suffering can stew within someone and cause them to act in a way that causes more suffering. Right? And so our jobs as human beings, one of our basic things that we should be doing is to try to remove this suffering as much as possible. If we start with this concept, right, that evil comes from suffering, and we take it upon ourselves, our spiritual journey, whether that is a Buddhist, engaged Buddhism spiritual journey, or that is a Christian Good Samaritan parable of the talents type of journey, either way, this is a way of gathering virtue for ourselves by providing for the people around us, by lessening the suffering of others, by improving the happiness of others. And that this is ultimately our duty and our mission of human beings, right? To those of us that are more capable should be doing more to provide to those who maybe are less capable. So, yeah. Anyways, now you know my general philosophy on life, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. It turns out there's actually a whole series of philosophy and books on this subject called utilitarianism and hedonistic utilitarianism and preference utilitarianism and all of these other sort of philosophical ideas. And we can talk about those ideas, right? We can talk about things like engaged Buddhism and being a good Samaritan and being a good Christian to our neighbors, right? And I hope to dig in to those things with you. All right, that should pretty much wrap up this video. This is the intro video of what is my channel about and who am I and what is my base value system and where do we go from here? I don't know. Maybe the next video I talk about autism or something. I don't know. But we'll see. You know, there's a whole week between this video and next video. A lot can happen. A lot is happening. There's a lot to talk about. I have a lot to say. So I hope you will tune in. If you like this, if this feels real to you, great. It is. Sign up, subscribe, Like this video, thumbs it up, promote it, do whatever. Thank you for joining me, and let me know your thoughts. Am I hitting the right notes? Till next week. Peace.